So we are Zach and Jamie Southwell. We've been married for 16 years.
We have 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, ages from 15 to 5.
I work in the electrical industry as a pre-apprenticeship instructor.
And I am mostly a homemaker. We teach 3 of our kids homeschool through a co-op, and I'm a big part of helping that run smoothly.
You want me to tell the story about how
we met?
met?
Well, I'd like to know how you think we met.
Well, I know how we met. So do you want to go?
Go for it.
I was in a band, and we were called Flying Leap. She would come and run sound for our practices. I don't know, we just always were around in each other's orbits, but we never really knew each other. One night, she was invited to go play a board game. She calls me and like, hey, I'm going to this friend's house to play a board game. Do you want to come? And so I'm like, sure, that sounds like fun. And we're playing Star Wars Monopoly. I'll never forget it. Because I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, this girl likes Star Wars Monopoly? Like, this is great. And so we're in the middle of this game, and all of a sudden, like, I can't quite explain it. And I look over at her and I'm like, is she wife material?
Because I played Star Wars Monopoly.
I never had thought about that. I'd never thought about it before. And then all of a sudden I looked over at her and we're playing this game. And should I maybe like her? Maybe I should like her. I think I might like her. We were only dating about
a month before you proposed, yeah.
Before I proposed. And it was cool because I had just met Pastor Jimmy through Jamie. And it was cool because we were the first couple that Pastor Jimmy ever got to marry. But when you run headlong into a marriage, you know, you're leading with your head first, right? So if you're jumping straight in, you're leaving yourself very exposed to get injured. There were things that should have been worked out before we got married that weren't. And in a lot of ways, you know, when you're naive and young, you think, well, we'll just figure it out.
Yes.
As we're in love, and
love is all you need.
Love is all you need, and it'll be easy.
There was a piece of advice that Pastor Jimmy had given to us during one of our premarital counselings. He's like, marriage is like a mirror hold up to your face, like 2 inches from it, and it only reflects your flaws. And so when Pastor Jimmy said that, and I was like, no, he doesn't have any flaws. I saw those flaws pretty quick. So
my flaws.
I mean, oh, that's true. It's true.
No, it's true.
Okay. But either way, like, you see your flaws and then they reflect your flaws. Yeah, we see all the flaws, and it's like, you don't realize, you're like, how I'm so in love, he's gonna be perfect. And then you 2 months into it, and you're like, can you not roll up toothpaste right? Like, it's pretty easy. I don't know, maybe. And then
we were so dumb.
you know, and then you don't realize how the big fights will come out of, because the reality was, it was like there was more under the surface, but it was never being dealt with. I do remember like an issue that we would have where I would always kind of romanticize things in my mind, being like, you know, if he really loved me, he would know that this shoe needs to be put exactly this way in order for it to look nice in here. And so I would be upset with him without having a fair standard of like, you should know or whatever, which sounds silly out loud, but the reality was in that you would feel like if this person is the person that chose me and loves me, he would anticipate my needs or whatever. So there was one time in his exasperation, and I remember it because usually in arguments, I'm like, we would say things that were worthless. It was ineffective. It was like more just bicker. And when I had said what I was upset about, he's just like, I can't read your mind. And I was like, I know. And then I was like, oh, that's true. He can't. And so I do remember actively there were small steps, but toward like being clear with what I did expect, which then did reveal some of my unrealistic expectations, because when I would verbalize them, I'm like, well, that's craziness.
So I do feel like a lot of the initial turmoil in our relationship is my fault. And not because, and I'm fortunate that I have a wife who's very candid and outspoken.
I learned that because I didn't want him to read my mind anymore. I just would tell him what my mind was saying, whether it was nice or not.
So sometimes I didn't necessarily like the way she was telling me what she was telling me. I would just basically say no, because again, going back, you're not being to me the way that Christ said you're supposed to be. And it's so easy to do growing up in church and going to church that you end up using the church as a weapon against your spouse. Because I'm the one who's beating her to death with the gospel, saying, you need to be acting this way. You need to be, an honoring wife you can't be a wife who is, I'm stuck in a corner. All I have in this house is just a corner. Like, I'm telling her this because it says so in Proverbs, right? Well, I'm beating my wife to death with this, telling her how she's a failure. And,
It's okay. It's okay.
how can a person grow in that kind of environment? If she was doing that to me, how would I be able to grow? Just push through? Be a man? I'm expecting that from her. I'm supposed to be the only safe place that she's supposed to have. That was unreasonable.
There were times where we're like, we shouldn't even be married, like we should be divorced because this is not worth it. The ups are never worth the downs, and there were so many of those. And so there was, I would say, a major turning point years ago, the concept of love and respect. That was, Emerson Eggerichs wrote a book and then did a subsequent series about love and respect in a marriage. And that gave us something tangible to hold on to because it was biblical. He would go off of, he was a pastor for a long time and he's like a scholar. And so he would use it from a biblical standpoint while also using psychology.
Women need unconditional love and men need unconditional respect. That's the premise of the book.
And then he goes into it.
And it breaks down the dichotomy of how women speak in love and men speak the language of respect. And so oftentimes when love is saying something, respect hears it in a disrespectful way.
In different language,
and
yeah.
Respect speaks something, love hears it
in an unloving
way.
Yep.
And that we end up stepping on each other.
Absolutely. And so applying it regularly was something that we hadn't walked or matured in and chosen. Sometimes we would selfishly use love and respect in a negative way and be like, well, you're not loving me.
What all of that hurt to what she's going through, or if she's upset with me, am I just all up in a frenzy? No, I'm not. I am concerned about her, but ultimately my responsibility as a husband, is to husband.
And the definition to husband something is to carefully tend to something. And so for him to not get all in a tizzy because I'm feeling a certain way doesn't mean just ignore me till I feel better. It means like he's saying, he doesn't take it personally or lend to how he's going to be in his stress. He'll just, let's figure this out. And so then I'm able to then husband him, to tend to him carefully when it's needed. It's like if we could just go back and forth. And so that should be, I believe there was a time where Pastor Jimmy mentioned something about that's why there's two of you in a boat, so that you can always be rowing. And you go faster when you're both rowing. It's great. But if only one can row, that's okay too. You're still moving.
Just got to stick it out through the heart.
You do. And give them their chance to grow in that. Every single person does have that other side of what their spouse needs. They need room to develop it. They need permission to develop it. But don't leave too soon because she or he has it in them to be that other side of it. It's just true.
I would say a day in the life now is that our home has purpose and direction. I pretty much know where I'm headed in a lot of ways. For me, the best advice I could give my younger self for, a husband in my shoes would be to be patient with your wife. Oftentimes she might come across in a way that is abhorrent to you or hurts your feelings or is disrespectful. She's telling you how to love her. It just might come across aggressive. So be patient and see what she's actually saying. Look through the words she's using to hear what she's actually saying, because she is telling you how to love her.
So give him grace, and by that I mean teach him how to speak your language. If he is genuine about wanting to know how to love you better in a way that you actually receive, because maybe you don't receive love with a handful of flowers. Maybe you receive love with side jobs being done. So his heart is for you. If he chose you as his wife, he does love you, and he just needs you to show him how to love you. So in that grace, sit him down and make sure he can understand that you're not critiquing him or criticizing him, that you're dealing with a man who doesn't think in that color. He thinks in blue and you think in pink. So you guys need to figure out how to speak in purple. That will take more than one conversation, but give him the chance to, without having him hoping that he should just know how to love you because he's your husband and he's the father of your children, or you've known him for 25 years or 25 minutes. Like, continue to show him how you receive love. And then when he tries in a good faith effort and it is a mess, accept it. You can genuinely see when that effort is being put in, because it's very foreign for them to speak in purple and pink. So try to teach him how to speak in purple.